These are remarkable stories.
My name is Janine Georgette, and I'm a wannabe sailor who's just starting out, and I'm really happy to be here. Part of my challenge for learning how to sail was that I really had no knowledge of it. I had no experience with it. I had no way to do it. And and really in that I mean I had no money. And getting on a sailboat in New York City pretty much involves having money to do so. And so I really looked for ways that I could get there because I was bit. I got sea bit and it became obsessive. And being on the internet was not enough. And I looked at so many schools that were offering classes, and I just couldn't afford them. And that was kind of painful until I found a school that was actually teaching teenagers how to build boats in the afternoons as a after school program. And I've been a teaching artist, on and off for over 30 years. And I thought, well, I can do that. I can help somebody teach teenagers because I've done that. And I called them up, and their after school program was boat building. They built Optimist, and then the kids would sail them. In the winter, we did the building, and then in the spring, we went sailing. And they taught the volunteers how to sail so that we could assist the captains, which was just perfect for me. And so that's what I did. And it was a way I ended up getting free sailing lessons. And that kind of is the way I approach sailing because I don't have the money to sail. And so I look for ways to get to the water or to get better on the water that I can afford.
Janine Georgette was an older, single African-American woman from New York City. She was recently divorced, had no money, no boat, and no sailing experience. And Janine was absolutely hell-bent on getting a sailboat and sailing it to the Caribbean. This is her story.
If you saw my Humans of New York, you know, the line I think everybody reacted to was, I'm not white, I'm not male, I don't have money, I don't have a boat, but I'm in New York City and I'm fucking sailing. And that is still part of what drives me to sail however I can. One of the places that I found a lot of community was Women Who Sail on Facebook. And I met a mentor there because I was looking for how to sail also when I didn't really have the physical ability to sail. I didn't have, I'm not strong like I used to be. And I got exposed to the junk rig, which really just made it so much simpler for an older person to sail. And a person who became my mentor pretty much gave me a sailboat, which was convenient for someone who didn't have the money. And so I ended up getting a sailboat. What a miracle in itself. And so my dreams of sailing are in full swing. I'm going to have this boat. I'm going to get it on the water. We're heading to the Bahamas after I learn to sail because that's my dream. Living the good life in, a beautiful place, being self-sufficient. It's part of what I wanted to do with sailing. And after getting the boat, I got on the water last summer. And the first year was difficult because the boat really wasn't ready to go. We got it ready last season, get on the water, and I can't start my engine. It's a perfectly wonderful engine. I say that because everyone I asked to start it was able to start it, except for me. And I'm talking about maybe 20 people. All summer, people were starting that motor for me. And I got that junk rig to work. I mean, the junk rig is really simple, but it's complex to set up. And so I was really proud of myself that I got it up. It was working. And I could not for the life of me, because of, I don't know if it's my own, I don't want to say stupidity because I don't feel like I'm stupid, but my own, what are you thinking moments of what it actually is going to take for me to sail. I was in Sag Harbor, around Sag Harbor. And it was so much more than I thought it was going to be in terms of work, in terms of just how do you deal with the currents and the wind and it was all more than I really could cope with. My last season, I thought that I would learn how to sail and I would actually end up sailing to Maine to see my mentor, and that then I would, because now I'd be living on this boat. You see, by the way, the boat is 19 feet. It's like a cat boat. And in my mind, that was what was going to happen. This tiny space, no problem. I'll deal with it. And I barely got out of Sag Harbor. I would say the thing that surprised me most about being on the water, besides being on the water, that amazing involvement with the wind and the air and that connection to nature, which is just so fulfilling. I mean, that's really why I was there. But the thing that got me the most, I have to say, were the people that I met. Mostly because I was asking them to help me with my motor. And, especially now, there's a real, it's always been, but it seems now everyone is more aware of it. There's a real tension between white and black people, between black people and the police, in some ways, between those who have and those who have not. And my boat was from Maine. And so because it's under 20 feet, its registration tags are not the normal setup of, I think it's the state letters, 2 letters, 4 numbers. Everyone's the same, except for my boat. Because it's under 20 feet, it's Maine. And Maine, don't be insulted if you're from there, but y'all are crazy. When it comes to bureaucracy, it's insane. And so every single policeman on the water, on the land, by where I was docked initially, were all suspicious of me. This 6-foot, dreadlocked woman, black woman, with a boat whose registration is not standard. So everyone stopped me. And then I would tell them what my plans were, and they thought I was crazy. They wanted me out of the harbors that I was in. It was a little intense. Yet the people I met were all helping me. When I would get a tow, the tow people who we became friends, because I got towed a lot, you know, do I have to tell you my grounding stories? No, although I will. First day on the water, I grounded twice. I had no depth sounder, and I hadn't made my lead line yet. And so people were helping me pull my boat off. People, it was funny when I look back on it, but in the midst of it, I was trying to cope just on and on and on with all these things that I was doing for the first time. And it's not that it's that difficult, right? But having everything be for the first time was not just exhausting, it was brutal. It was like someone was always beating me up to the point that I would call my mentor. I remember one day calling her and just crying. I was in tears. Like literally, I remember I said to her, everything is so hard. And she went, aw. I think she laughed a little. And then she said, I've been waiting for you to get there. And it's that distance between the dream and reality. And I'm a very optimistic person. I believe I can do anything. If I figure it out, if I work hard enough, I can make it happen. And that is all well and good. But reality, it's a two-edged sword. On one hand, I have this belief that I can do everything. And on the other hand, there's the world where life isn't necessarily easy. And boating was not easy. Sailing, learning to sail there was nothing easy about it. Not one thing. I thought I was going to pay for this whole endeavor by starting a YouTube channel. I've got a degree in film. I know how to shoot and edit, and I'm an actor. I know all that stuff. So, what's going to be so hard about that? It'll be time consuming. The camera never got out of the bag. I was so exhausted every day. Like I said, the first day I got grounded twice. I only remember that because it was the 1 and 2. First day, 2 groundings. I was learning to tack upwind. That was one of my major goals at that point. Forget Maine. Let's just learn to tack upwind. And so I'm in, a relatively calm area, but the wind, I didn't pay attention to the tide. And so my dinghy also was a little off center, and I was just getting pulled out to Gardiner's Bay to the point where I stopped the boat with my anchors. And this is the good part of my motor not working. I am now a champ with my anchors. And I say anchors, I had 3 of them on that boat, and 2 were ready to be deployed at any time. And there I am at this, I think it's called West, I want to say West Harbor. No, that's not right. I've forgotten the harbor. That it was like right before Gardiner's Bay. And it's nighttime now. And I can't find my little, my lights, my anchor lights. I know because I'm in a weird place. I've got to put them up there. I got something rigged so that I had a light on. And then the next day, I'm very near the shore. And a boat, not very, but, close enough. And a boat comes through, and the waves reflect off of the shore. So I'm getting hit twice. But I'm like, what? At any rate, I figured out that I need to go with the tide. So I get out of there and I'm tacking upwind, this is like my moment of victory. that I'm doing it. I'm getting past that point on by gardeners that I've struggled with the previous day. I'm going right by it. I'm so proud of myself. And a boat comes along with, the motorboats, you guys know better than I do, but they're just the waves that they create. I didn't respect. I didn't think I had to worry about that. And I let my boat go beam to a wave, a powerboat wake. And it not only was it a big one, but it was steep, and it nearly capsized me. And I had that was my moment of terror, where it I just realized I was in for more than I thought. That it was all bigger than I had any sense, even though I was in Sag Harbor, which is supposed to be, I grew up in Sag Harbor, not grew up, but in the summers. I learned to swim in Havens Beach. I learned to swing on the swing in Havens. But the view from the water is entirely different. It's a whole different world. And after almost capsizing, I decided to go and anchor by Havens. But Havens was so busy with the rafting boats, where they give those rides and those waves. And I should have had another plan, plan A, B, C. Where am I going to go if A doesn't work out? But I hadn't done that. And so I stopped near the channel marker because there were all these big boats and all these wakes, and I didn't know what to do. And so I dropped anchor. And now I'm in the most rolly, nonstop. It was almost horrific. And luckily, for some reason, I didn't get seasick. I should have, but I didn't. And I called for a tow. And my friends, the tow people. And here's again where somebody came over, rowed, or he wasn't rowing, he had his dinghy, but came over to my boat and was like, "Ahoy! Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, who are you? Why are it was just so sweet of him to just check on me. And I've heard about that, about sailors. I've heard about that community of people giving their time and knowledge and energy and expertise without any expectation. And it restored my faith in humankind. After making it back to my little safe spot in a creek, and really kind of looking at what I needed to do differently in order to continue to learn the skills I needed to sail, I was ready. And I was about to set out on my next little, let me go to a different harbor, when the first hurricane came. And so everything kind of came to a screeching halt. I really was ready, I think, to take those steps of, sailing. The lessons how do I heave to? Let me get better even at going upwind. But the hurricane came. And so, God, I don't even remember which one, but it was really the first big one of the season. And so instead I learned how to make my boat ready. And I kedged into a little corner of a creek, and I wrapped up my sail bundle and tied, all the lines to the mast. And then I also, when the hurricane passed and the boat was fine, I also had an audition in the city. And so it seemed, you know what? This may be a good time to pull out of the water. Because I don't know if I get this audition or not. Not the audition, I don't know if I get the part. And if I do, we're going to start quickly, and so I need the boat out of the water then. So I was like, okay, let's get the boat out of the water. And I have to say that getting the boat out of the water was maybe my most capable moment, because all of the things, the wind was rough that morning, and I remember rowing my lines over to the guys who were going to put me on the trailer, and I had to struggle with the anchors, but I had been kedging, so now I was good at that. Even getting the boat onto the trailer, things were now, I wasn't doing everything for the first time. Maybe that's what it is. And I felt confident about it. That was the other thing. And I think that's what I took away from that first season of I don't even have a good word for it, of trials and tribulations, is that I was confident. And I'm not saying I'm a confident sailor, because I'm not. I'm still such a beginner. But I'm a confident person. And I think my confidence wasn't low beforehand, but because I was able to deal with everything that happened last season and came through it, I have this sense of, well, if I can do that, I can do damn near anything. It's this comparative thing. And I am so stoked for next season. I mean, I definitely, had that moment of, do I really want to do this? Here's my dream and here's reality. Do I want to stick with it? And the answer was yes. I still am called to the sea by some weird thing. Don't ask me what it is. And I still dream of living in beautiful places, being self-sufficient. And I know that it's going to take longer than I thought. And now I'm willing for that to be true. And I'm aware that I dream big, and that's good, but now I break it into bits. So next season, I still am planning to go to Maine. Will I go to Maine? I don't know. My first part is sailing around Long Island. And if that goes well, then I'll think about Maine. But I'm still in New York, and I'm fucking sailing.
Remarkable Stories is written and produced by John Herlig and Mike McDowell. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please share it with a friend or leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen. From everybody at Remarkable Stories, I'm Georgina Milsom saying thank you for listening.